But we're going to get on to our first topic now, and it's about the ongoing row over welfare benefits, which is causing all sorts of division in Parliament and in the country this week. We're asking if you feel betrayed by Labour over its plans to cut the amount that they spend on supporting people who live with a disability. Get your calls in now, 0207 862 2222. The most significant change would be to PIP, the personal independence payment, given to people, including some of those who are in work, who have extra care needs or mobility needs as a result of disability. People who claim it are awarded points depending on their ability to carry out certain activities, such as washing and preparing food. And it's this system that the government wants to make more robust. It says the changes could save up to £5 billion of taxpayer money. But do you feel betrayed? Are you a Labour supporter, first off, Matt? Do you feel betrayed by something that a lot of people would say really doesn't feel like a Labour policy?
So there's the politics of this, and then there's the policy. As to whether I feel betrayed, let me give you a very brief example. So I was talking, when this became a news story the first time round a little while ago, to a neighbour who lives in social housing. And I had persuaded her to get up and go to the polling booth last summer and, like me, vote Labour. She wanted to vote Labour, but she thought Labour was going to get in. I said, every vote counts. So she went off and did that. And by the way, I think everyone should vote, whoever they vote for. And when this policy was announced, she said, why did I bother? Might as well have stuck with the last lot. So she feels betrayed. She is on PIP. The politics of this are extremely poor for Labour, and not just because we've just had one of these massive YouGov polls for the first time since the last election, which tries to work out how many seats each party would win at the next election. Labour stand on the basis of this poll, it's one poll, but to lose 234 seats. And one of the reasons, I think, behind this polling disaster for Labour is U-turns. So they U-turned on the winter fuel. They arguably got it wrong in the first place and then U-turned. They've U-turned really on whether to have an inquiry into the rape gang story. And now it looks like they're going to at least make concessions on this. The politics of this is very bad for Labour.
Is this Stacco? Starmer always chickens out. That in comes the policy at the beginning where they can afford to be unpopular. Actually, when the reality comes and the left wing of Labour gets involved, he realises
the left wing
can't sustain it.
Bit their lip, didn't they? Most of the left wing during the King's speech last year, and a lot of people wanted the two-child benefit cap to be reversed, and they bit their lip on that. They're not prepared to bite their lip on this, and this is really, really difficult for Starmer. It's really, really difficult because it is a flagship policy. But on the policy, this is what matters more than the politics. It matters enormously to real people, such as, for example, potentially my neighbour. I understand why this bill needs to be cut, if at all it can, but it has to be cut, and this is difficult, it has to be cut without such a blunt instrument that people are going to be pushed into poverty.
OK, we're going to find out about whether people who are disabled consider it a blunt instrument or not, or whether they think that the line is in the right place, because it feels like that line is moving, isn't it? That line is shifting. He's having to reappraise what exactly he can get away with his MPs to get this thing through Parliament.
Well, if we take the politics out of it for a second, I mean, I think it's a disservice that we have a situation in which 1/10 of the adult working population are on out-of-work benefits.
OK, so PIP isn't an out-of-work benefit?
It isn't, and I think that actually it's interesting. About 20% of people on PIP are working. But I think what we should be looking at is the benefits bill as a whole. Of course, this is one place that we can make some savings, but the real fundamental problem is people that are on out-of-work benefits, often the increase over the last few years has been as a result of mental health and mental illnesses. There is no evidence whatsoever that the best thing for a person with depression or anxiety is for them to be told that they're not good enough to work, they should just stay at home. And they are not counted in unemployment statistics, so they just disappear. It's more than a waste of taxpayer money, it's a waste of human potential.
It's really important that we don't class PIP as a out-of-work benefit, because this is an enabling benefit. This allows people to level up and enjoy a lot of the things that a lot of us take for granted.
So if you can't wash yourself, for example.
But there are many people
you
that
need
are...
help with that, and you need to pay for that help. That's the way I understand it.
I would say PIP should only be given to people with physical illnesses and physical disabilities.
But I'm sorry, let me just jump on that. Now, I have gone through, as many people watching will have done, some really tough times with my mental health. I've been able to seek professional help. I was able to afford it. Some of it was on the NHS, some of it wasn't. I can tell you, going through a mental health crisis is not fun. It is really, really, it is a disability. It made it very, very difficult for me when I was presenting my national radio show at that point during the pandemic to get into work. I did get into work, but the point is, people really, really struggle with mental health, and yet what they need is help, and they need help to get back into work.
I wonder how much of this is about the way that these things are assessed. I really want to hear from somebody who probably has a greater understanding of these things than we do. Let's now speak to former NHS manager and disability rights advocate Kerry Riches. Hiya, Kerry. Obviously.
Hello.
Yeah, good to see you. Obviously, you have your lived experience of this, but you've also been campaigning for disability rights as well. I mean, the question we're asking is, do you feel betrayed by Labour? Is this the opposite of what you expected when Labour got into power?
The complete opposite. In actual fact, I'd go as far to say now, I don't know what our Labour government's priorities are anymore. They attacked the elderly population with winter fuel, and now they're going for the disabled. What are they doing to the most vulnerable in society? And I was getting very cross listening to your argument then with the lovely young lady on your panel. It's very dangerous if we start saying that people with mental health issues cannot claim PIP. This is you work with PIP, and I think it is so unfair to say that only disabled people can qualify for this. I've never had mental health problems myself, but since doing this, I'm telling you now, mental health issues are as debilitating as a physical disability, and it makes me very cross listening to your discussion just now.
OK, go on.
Would you want me to respond? Well, yeah. I completely understand that perspective. I do think we have to be very clear about the fact that we are currently paying the highest tax burden since the Second World War. People cannot afford to spend any more money giving it to HMRC. And unfortunately, lots of people across the country struggle with mental health. Lots of hardworking people that are going into work, waking up every morning and going into work. And I don't think we can afford to let all of those people claim taxpayer money that is being earned by hardworking people.
Well, I can tell you now, I have never claimed a non-means tested benefit in my life. And I do think people should be in work, and I do think people should contribute towards taxes 100%. But taking away PIP, please let me finish. Taking away PIP is nonsensical. It keeps people in the workplace. OK, one of the things that I struggle to get my head around, Kerry, and maybe you've got a better idea of this, is why the bill has ballooned so much since COVID. Why are so many more people claiming PIP than they were, 5 years ago? I mean, I can't answer that. COVID affected everyone in very, very different ways. And I worked consistently in the NHS throughout, but each of those cases are on individual merits. And people do not claim PIP lightly. It's a laborious, degrading process. You do not put yourself through it if you don't need it. And I would welcome every single MP opposing this legislation next week in hope that we can desperately get disabled people like myself. Every show that I've been on since last year, all I want is for the government to have me around the table. I've got some fantastic ideas how it can be reformed. It needs to be reformed, and I've got a way to help them do it.
Who's paying for it?
Paying for what?
Paying for the huge amounts of money that we're now spending on out-of-work benefits and PIP. Who's paying for it?
Well,
taxpayers will be paying for it, but people that have PIP are also working. I believe we should contribute towards taxes.
So 80% aren't working?
The majority of people that I know that claim PIP do work and want to work.
Across the country, 80% of people that claim PIP are not working.
I am not disputing that people that claim PIP don't need help to get back into the workplace. But let me tell you something. There's a 9-month wait on access to work. Everything needs to be reformed. I've got some brilliant ideas to get people back into the workplace.
Kerry, while we've got you here, we had a call, I think it was yesterday or the day before, from somebody that was claiming PIP who said the assessment took place over the telephone. Is that part of the problem here? That actually the assessment process itself is inadequate to really work out what people can and can't do in a day?
I mean, I think the assessment process is not fit for practice. Not fit for purpose. I had a lady come to my house 6 years ago. She wasn't a medic. She sat down in my lounge with me and says, "Tell me about MS. I don't know what MS is." She's not a medic. That in itself could save a huge amount of money by cutting out the middleman. Let's ensure that medics, professional individuals, such as nurses, such as your consultants, are the ones that are assessing you and making that decision. It shouldn't be someone that isn't trained in a medical field.
Okay.
Just to jump in very briefly, I'm very clear in what I want to happen. What I want to happen as a taxpayer, we're talking about taxpayers, is I am prepared for my taxes to go towards people who really need it. I don't obviously want to pay my taxes towards people who should or could be with a better system in work. And it seems to me that there does need to be reform, but the reforms have to be thought through properly and not result in pushing potentially 250,000 people, which is a figure I've heard, into poverty. So yes, the government is right to look at this. Yes, we need long-term thinking in this country. We're crying out for it, but it must not be such a blunt instrument that real people suffer even more than they already are.
Okay, we're going to...
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And someone like myself with multiple sclerosis, with Parkinson's, maybe an amputee, someone's got an amputee. You know, why are we being reassessed? We have chronic long-term conditions that are progressive. There is no cure. So why do you assess us every 3 to 5 years? There's such a lot of wastage. I've got some really good ideas. It does need to be reformed, but it needs to be done properly.
Well, listen, Kerry, thank you. It's always great to hear your perspective, and you express it so beautifully. One of the things, we're going to have to leave you there, but one of the things that people are complaining is about where was the consultation with disabled people to get their side of things, to understand exactly how to change if it does need change, if it needs reform. I want to take some calls. Jean's in Northumberland. Jean, do you feel betrayed by Labour over the reforms to the way PIP is assessed?
Absolutely. I'm actually a Labour Party member and have been for over 50 years. I lost my winter fuel allowance last year. I'm 76 now. But by the by, what I'm really disturbed about is I have a 51-year-old daughter who has a learning disability, who has various other medical problems and a mental health problem, which she takes meds for. She goes to a day centre. She has a carer comes in twice a day to give her meds. We now don't know if she's going to lose her PIP. Now, I've gone through this process for many years. They stopped her PIP some years ago, and we had to appeal, had to go to a magistrate's court, where we were surrounded by ne'er-do-wells, and that's the behaviour in there. She ended up so stressed because she had to go to this court.
Jean.
Went in. She actually got upgraded because of her condition, because she was on a lower rate previously.
Jean, what happens? What happens if your daughter loses her PIP? What practically? What will there be the change in her life?
Well, we won't be able to have carers coming in each day.
So who picks up the burden then? Will it be you? Will it be the rest of the family?
Well, I've got a son and another daughter who will help in that situation. But at 76, the major burden will be on me.
Okay.
On me. And I can't claim carers because I've got a retirement pension. And as for that lady who's sitting there saying the taxpayer, yes, I was a taxpayer and I'm still a taxpayer. I pay tax on my pension. How dare she? She hasn't even been through the world yet. She's got no idea. And I'm sorry, I really get annoyed with that lady. No, she hasn't lived a life yet. She doesn't know what's coming to her in life. We didn't know we were going to have a disabled daughter, but we've done our best with her to bring her up.
somebody like your daughter, so I appreciate your comments and your perspectives, and I really appreciate you sharing that. Somebody like your daughter would not have their PIP removed because they have a physical disability in which they are unable to work, and they obviously need a carer. If your daughter needs a carer, then she wouldn't have her PIP taken away. People like your daughter need that kind of money, but there are lots of people that don't. And I want people like your daughter to have more support and more care, but people that can work, that should be in work. And you've got literally 10% of the adult working population on benefits, something is going wrong.
Government's own assessment says that 250,000 people will be thrown into poverty. That surely suggests these people will not be living in poverty if they have the ability to work and make their own income.
If they have the ability to work, they should be working. And
But
Reem, then that's their problem.
Reem,
I'm sorry, but taxpayer shouldn't foot the bill.
I know you're getting a tough time, but you have said on national television, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if you have a mental health disability, if you have a mental health issue, you should not be given benefits. Only people who are physically disabled. That is an astonishing thing to say.
Because
that's an astonishing thing to say in the modern world when we fully understand how difficult mental health issues are to people, to millions of people.
Lots of people that are working have mental health issues and they still get on with it.
OK, listen, we're going to have to move on now.